Welcome, business enthusiasts. Today we're joined by Susan Duker. Susan will describe the most challenging aspect of cybersecurity, unveil what aspects are important for both cybersecurity and EMT, and will share many other insights. With 20 years of telecoms experience, Susan Duker is responsible for the systems and software engineering teams at XConnect. Okay, Susan, I'm so happy and excited that you are with us and that we will delve into the intriguing world of cybersecurity with you.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let me quickly explain the rules of our game. We have 8 questions for you about the world of cybersecurity, and you just give us a number and I will pronounce you the question.
Oh, I'm supposed to say numbers in any order?
Yeah, up to you, of course.
So we can start with 1 if that works for you.
1, okay. Your journey from technical project manager to CTO at XConnect is impressive. Could you share a pivotal moment in your career that led to this transition? You actually told me that you recently changed this role.
It's not a real change in role. I've been the CIO/CISO for 4 years now at XConnect, and recently, due to the fact that I'm starting to attend events and meeting customers in person, I think it's just easier for people to understand what I do as CTO. Essentially, I'm still managing the same teams. I'm still responsible for the same aspects of security technology, strategic planning that I was before, but just a little bit more customer facing. So I've been very lucky in that I've been working, originally it was a startup many years ago. I started 15 years ago as a technical project manager. And throughout that time, it's a company that fosters growth and initiative. So people who take initiative tend to take on new challenges or new skills. And I'm somebody who likes to change and learn and grow. I also really like the company. So I've been very lucky in that when I would take on a new task or upskill or whatever I did, it sometimes led to new role opportunities. So over the course of my time, I've consistently, been able to move and grow and find my way through the company. I've probably changed roles 4 times in the 15 years that I've been here.
So maybe what was the moment which was the most memorable for you this transition?
Right. I guess I should say I can't think of a pivotal moment because it was a slow change over time. It's to me, it's that continuous journey of just being consistent and looking for gaps that need to be filled and saying yes. And always saying yes when you can.
That sounds incredible. I think gradual process is actually the true driver to success and results.
I think so. I believe in not big bang changes because, I'm risk averse in general. So.
Okay, shall we move to the next question?
I'm going to say 2. I'm not interesting.
No, of course not. I think it shows your character of being consistent. What is the most intriguing cybersecurity challenge you've faced in this industry?
So to be honest, the most challenging aspect of a cybersecurity program is to figure out, what am I focusing on? What is my threat landscape? What are my risks? Because when you start learning about cybersecurity, this is an endless world of, you could say challenges, you could say opportunities, you could say, scary, terrible things. So it's daunting and you don't know what to tackle first. So really spending that time scoping out what are our concerns and trying to tackle the highest priorities each year, choosing 2 or 3 areas to focus on, having a long-term plan, and trying to fit within a budget that is, you can't take your whole budget for cybersecurity. And everybody knows in the industry that year on year, companies are putting more money towards the cybersecurity budget. But it has to be within reason, because if you try to boil the ocean, first of all, it will never be approved. It won't be achievable. And then you'll just have failed in all your efforts. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge for anybody, specifically for us as well.
What kind of solutions is it possible to find to this challenge? What do you think?
It's very important to make at least a 3-year plan with what are the goals, what are going to be the security projects that you're going to tackle each year. And when you have certification, so we're being monitored, we get our external audit for ISO 27001. It gives you a framework for making sure that you have a continuous process. So it keeps you honest that you're making good choices. You have to defend your choices. Anything that you choose not to tackle has to be, if it's a risk, it has to be noted in a risk register, which means that you're tracking it and you're making it public. So your whole management team's aware of what you are and are not focusing on at any given time during the year, across the years, always.
Will I sound predictable if we pick the question number 3?
That sounds good to me.
As both a cybersecurity expert and EMT, you're accustomed to handling crises in different realms. Can you tell us about a time when your skills from one role unexpectedly came in handy in the other?
Okay, well, I would love to say that, I was performing CPR and the defibrillator was faulty and I magically fixed it, but no, it doesn't quite work that way. But, so I've been working in high tech for much longer than I've been a medic. I've been working in production environments where they can be high stress, especially in startups when you're scrambling to build a stable environment. So in my previous role, before I was at XConnect, I worked for a voice over IP company. And in those days, so we're talking 15 years ago and before, voice over IP was not a reliable service. It was very difficult to get to a point where you had complete stability, which meant we were often in panic mode. One particular memorable incident is when we were in a tier 1 data center and they inexplicably shut off power, even though everything is supposedly redundant. So all of our servers for 90 minutes. So that's complete panic right there. And I found that even though, my adrenaline was going at full speed that time and other times, I didn't freeze. I was stressed, but I was functioning and my brain still operated. So when I chose to do the meta course, I thought, okay, I don't freeze when I'm panicking. So that's good. That's a good sign. And even though it sounds like, well, some is one is life and death and one is broken phone calls. It's amazing how your body actually reacts exactly the same way. So it's true. I know that I don't freeze, even when I'm at full adrenaline and you're shaking, that feeling. But
what that experience taught you, apart from the fact that you didn't freeze?
Just that I can power through, and after the fact, I can start breathing again, and I'll have to recover. But that we soldier on. At the end of the day, you do what you can. You do your best.
Like in the song, "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger."
Exactly.
If cybersecurity were an Olympic sport, what would your event be called and what kind of skills would contestants need to master? Tricky question.
I guess because we're very into defense, I'm going to call us the data defenders. We protect our data fiercely. So I guess our contestants, they would have to demonstrate their ability to constantly monitor for threats and tackle them, shield systems, networks, shield the data from bad actors.
I know it's a very broad question, but shielding data, what are kind of the most effective ways would you call nowadays in protecting this data?
I mean, it's always supposed to be a layered defense. There's you never have one type of shield because that can be breached. So you have perimeter defenses at the network level. You have encryption on the data itself. You have authorization, so people can't get to the data. I mean, those are very simple examples, but that's the idea. The idea is that you have these different circles of protection. And as you get to your more sensitive data, you put more effort in protecting that data than the data that's less sensitive.
Maybe any effective combinations that works the best, or it all depends?
That's It's, I think, too broad for me to answer because there are different kinds of data that's stored in very different ways. And I guess I would say focus on making sure that your data is encrypted always at all levels, at rest, in transit. You don't want to open up the possibility that somebody can access your sensitive data if they get into your system. Yeah, if they somehow breach the network, that they still shouldn't really have access to the data, that it wouldn't be readable to them. This is the most important thing. This is less about securing the data and more about making sure you have the data is backups, many backups in many different forms. They say 3 copies and in different places, because if you lose your data, that could be a whole other problem that I wasn't really referring to before.
I think it's a logical conclusion to our next question, which is, what is one tech trend in cybersecurity that you're excited about and why? Any cool gadgets or tools that you can't live without in your cybersecurity arsenal?
I would say that the answer people want to hear is AI. Everybody wants to say that we're excited about artificial intelligence, but I'm very pragmatic, and I'm dealing with what are the trends that are important to me and what I do and what I'm concerned about. So I would say that for me, the trend that I'm more focused on right now is on the zero trust architecture, which is less cool sounding, less of a buzzword, but it basically is the concept that you never trust and always verify. Every endpoint, every subject trying to access your network or data. So rather than rely on a perimeter security, which is the traditional way of protecting systems, the whole world has moved into a multi-layered approach of different types of authentications at different levels, role-based authentication, attribute-based authentication. Each program you use has its own mechanism. It's not that, oh, you got in and now you can access these 5 things. No, these 5 things have their own level of checking. And it's interesting because moving to that model is, well, I should say we're global. We're hybrid environment, a work environment. We have cloud services. We also have on-prem data center, our stuff in the data center, which means there is no real perimeter anyway. So we're very much focused on that and looking towards always improving the model and streamlining it. And then in terms of gadgets, again, I'm just not that cool. So my gadget that I can't live without is not really a gadget. It's our monitoring system. We spend a lot of effort customizing and writing our own event handlers for different types of scenarios, so that we can sleep at night. And that's why I say we can't live without it, because without our monitoring system, which is over the years has become so mature and extensive, we would be woken up by our knock, regularly, because there would be something that they don't necessarily understand is happening, and they wouldn't know the severity and how to handle it. And I'm happy to report that we generally do sleep through the night. So that's why I like it. And then, of course, our phones, we can't live without. With multi-factor authentication, that is your biggest asset these days. I would say more than a physical wallet, more than your driver's license. Your phone is your identity. It's everything. And you need to have it with you at all times.
I mean, at Sintis Telecom, which provide SMS services, we can't agree more.
Exactly.
Susan, thank you very much for sharing these incredible pieces of wisdom. I think we've learned so much useful information from the world of cybersecurity, and your answers were incredibly unpredictable, even though you say to me that you're consistent.
I'm consistently unpredictable.
Yeah, you're consistently unpredictable, and we are very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.